Hi there, welcome to have you back for part 2 of my conversation with Cacky Mellor. In this part we move from the personal to the collective while honoring each individual need. And also we're looking into grading from an embodied perspective and the metaphor of tuning forks. So let's dive back in. Have fun. Beautiful. And I'm wondering, so in a classroom, because with empaths, but anyway, we have this collective nervous system, right, from the group. And then titration works differently because there's a group collective and then there's individuals, shifting with you. Did you have an experience where you really was like, oh, this is either too low or too high? And just to give it some hands and feet for in the classroom, how that works and how you maybe also bring it back, or you couldn't and now you know what to do.
Yeah. The classroom management piece of it is
Yeah, because
always
it's so
evolving.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's so funny that you asked that because I came up against this flavor of challenge with one of my courses this summer. I was teaching a virtual synchronous course on a holistic approach to healing. And it was an accelerated course. So rather than 16 weeks, it was in an 8-week format.
Ooh.
So we were moving really fast. And it was a large group. It was over 20 students in an online class. I think there's 24 students. So it was big.
Yeah.
Um, and there was just so many different needs. And with things as simple as going over assignment instructions. And I really wanted to make sure that everyone understood assignments and there was ample opportunity to clarify or ask questions. And as we were moving through the semester, I could see that there was a portion of the class that was really struggling to understand some of the expectations for assignments. So I adjusted and I spent extra time going over the instructions. And I got my course evals after. So this didn't come up in the class. I didn't get the real time feedback, but afterwards, there were
Mm.
a couple of students that were really quick to understand assignment instructions and were really hungry to deepen into the conversation and the experientials and the content. And they were getting really frustrated. Like, why are we spending so much time going over assignments? And that actually saying like, if people don't understand, then like they should be doing that in office hours or like getting help elsewhere versus in the classroom. And it was so interesting to
Mm-hmm.
get back. And from my perspective, as the facilitator in the room, I want to make sure everyone understands. Like that is a big part of class time is
Yeah.
to explain the expectations of assignments and clarify and introduce and be able to engage in content and have experientials and application. Um, so it's always this like fluid, dynamic, trying to find the balance of
Yeah.
not glossing over and going through things too quickly that folks feel confused. Yeah, like what's going on? Like it's such an important, from a somatic perspective, that's part of orienting, right?
Yeah.
That's part of where are we and where are we going?
Yeah.
So it's foundational that we have that shared understanding. Um, but yeah, uh it can be challenging when you have
Mm.
such a large group of such diverse needs
Online, you said, right? Because
online.
that's
Yeah.
another dynamic that you bring into the digital room, which is different.
Yes.
And I think a little bit harder to grasp
Yeah.
with the sensations that are they're on a different scale, too fast, too slow.
Yes. Yes.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. So getting that feedback and going into the fall semester, I've been thinking a lot
yeah,
about that
yeah,
and how do I've been trying to think of different ways of experimenting with how do I find that just right balance for this group because each class is going
the
to be,
next group might be different. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
And even at different points in the semester, it might be
yeah,
different.
yeah.
So not locking in and thinking like, oh, I have the perfect equation for all of this all the time forever.
Yeah, exactly. And then you thought you had.
Right. It's very humbling. It's very humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so again, like it was so interesting because I was trying to attend to this smaller group of students' needs. And it was helpful for me to remember to also notice what's going on for other students and if they and feel into like if they are getting frustrated
Yeah.
and not assuming that I know what's going on for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and trying to create more opportunities to uh, welcome that feedback and also make explicit why why am I spending more time going over assignments
Yeah. I think very important. Yeah.
and uh, not uh, doing it in a way that is uh, doing it in a way that's inclusive and welcoming of curiosity and clarification and questions,
Hmm.
and not in a way that's going to stigmatize or shut down.
That's interesting what you're saying because I notice I'm tracking myself and my thoughts like, what would I do? And the first thought
Yeah.
that comes up, but what you're saying now, I'm like, oh, maybe that wouldn't work. And that's very, so I'm thinking, oh, yeah, well, if it's online, I love breakout rooms. And then I pop into them. Sometimes with my students, I make like work groups and then I pop into them. And then that's just what I'm thinking, like to put them in breakout rooms and to first also do a round of where are you at? Are you already in the curriculum? Do you know where you are? Are you ready to get down to work? Yes. Okay. Well, anybody who wants that, join that group. And then anybody who's feeling like, I want to have another go at listening to you, and okay, go in that group. And then you choose. But would that work when we talk about collectives and then having diverse groups? It's like create something. So I'm just curious, yeah, how does this land with you?
Yeah. Well, I think that could be empowering, right? Allowing them to self-select.
Yeah.
Um, but I also really love as much as I can incorporating like a flipped classroom model and that peer-to-peer learning and
Yeah.
engagement because sometimes uh oftentimes students listen to each other more than they listen to the
Yeah.
educator.
As much as we like to talk,
Right,
it is the truth, isn't it?
right. Yeah. So so
But
I yeah, that's one of the things that I'm trying to play with a little bit um this this fall is um how can students do more of those small group
yeah,
practices
yeah.
where they can talk through and be like, well, I think the assignment means this. Well, I think the assignment means, and then rather than one
Hmm.
person having to like feel on the spot and ask a question, it can be like, our group wants to ask this. And I actually got this idea from teaching Japanese students. Um, and so this summer was the second time in 3 years that I got to teach intro to psychology at Showa, Boston. And Showa is a Japanese women's college, and they have a satellite campus just outside of Boston.
Mm.
And so they're coming both for like the English immersion to strengthen their English skills as well as for to experience American culture. And also, these students chose to learn about psychology in America and how it's different than Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so fun
Yeah.
and so fascinating because Japanese culture is so collectivist
Yeah.
and it's so different, particularly education culture than
Mm-hmm.
in the US, which is
Mm-hmm.
so hyper individualistic. And I've learned so much about how important fairness is in in a Japanese classroom. Like if you ask one person, you have to make sure that you ask every student a question throughout the class so that you're not just putting one person on the spot or a couple people on the spot. Um, and that the students are much more likely to engage if you ask, like you propose a discussion question and then you give them a couple of minutes to pair up and talk about it amongst themselves and then share out so that it's not an individual calling attention to themselves, but they can collect their thoughts, share with each other, figure out how to say it in English, and then share.
Yeah.
And I want to bring some of those practices that worked in the Japanese classroom into my American classrooms and see if that
Mm.
helps with uh, destigmatizing asking questions and feeling more comfortable and empowered to learn out loud. Um, I am a huge proponent of this feminist concept of learning out loud and being willing to uh, talk through what our understanding is in the moment and ask questions and be very open to being wrong and
Yeah.
not fully understanding
Wow.
things and knowing that our our perspective and knowledge is going to evolve throughout life because that's
Yeah.
it's not stagnant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that can be really vulnerable and uncomfortable. Um, and it's a big ask, especially in the like I'm only a couple weeks into the fall semester.
Yeah.
So students are still getting to know each other. They're still getting to know me. They're still getting to know the class. And so uh, I've been trying to figure out ways of supporting both our connection as a classroom community as well as creating a welcoming space. Like I tell students all the time, I have zero interest in you agreeing with me. I don't like that is not the point of these classes. Like I want to know what is alive for you, how the material is landing for you, especially with most of these classes I've taught them for years. And yes, the course evolves over time, but what makes it really fresh and exciting and alive is how is this material landing with this group of students
Yeah.
and what are they thinking and what connections are they making and how is it applying to their life um, and in order for them to feel comfortable doing that like what do we need to do like what as a facilitator as a collective do we need to do that folks feel curious and comfortable enough to play in this space. And I hope that it can be play.
This is so gorgeous. It's so beautiful. I'm writing down some stuff because there's so many gems in there. I'm like, oh no, I need to write because I don't look down, but then it's just everyone, it's my notes on the ground. That's what I'm looking at all the time. Um, First of all, it makes me think of Kanamori education. That was a Japanese, do you know him? With the whole style of this collectivism and first, like basic lesson of nervous system, first the relationship and then the content, right? And first we gather and we
Yeah.
help each other. And that is so beautiful. And I love it that uh, my kind of Western productive, okay, turn them into two groups and da 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 da. And what I realized, first of all, because that still keeps me in the driver's seat, because I'm sweating, because I'm organizing, I'm splitting them up, and they are in their individual space doing their thing, which also keeps me in my space of being the teacher. So the first thing that I realized when you gave that example of that, the real Japanese values of bringing that in, of kindness and really giving them, allowing them time, that they get to work and you get to breathe as the educator in the room. And it's not just sweat on your back, but it's the collective's effort. And that, for me, like you said, flips the classroom on a different scale. Beautiful. That's so powerful. And I'm curious. So you want to bring that into your American classroom, and you're only like beginning. So how does that land? Because I could resonate probably with our my European classroom. Um, that it would be a challenge sometimes to bring in the more collective practices.
Yeah. And I think I'm trying to, going back to titration, I'm trying to find the right little doses of how do I introduce
Yeah,
it
yeah,
so that we can build up to it.
yeah.
Um, and I think one of the things I'm trying to do is to not make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Mm,
And it goes back to even something as simple as insisting that everyone learn each other's names. Um, and I, this has been another kind of aha moment for me of I always, as a student, knew everyone in the class's name because I guess
and
I'm a bit of a social creature.
an empath,
Yeah.
something.
Um, so that was very like a very organic and natural thing for me. I wanted to know everyone's names, and I also was fortunate enough to be in liberal arts school where we had smaller class sizes, and the faculty also knew every student's name, and they knew us not just as like a name on a roster with a grade, but a real person.
Yeah.
And that's so important to my own pedagogical approach of a humanistic, person-centered, relational approach to education. And again, like you're saying, it's not just my responsibility to learn all of the students' names. And I put a lot of effort into doing that. But it's also the students' responsibility to learn their peers. And I was a little bit surprised recently. I think this was last year, maybe 2 years ago. Um, at the end of the semester, we were doing a kind of reflective, integrative practice where the students got to share like some of their meaningful takeaways and how it how they're going to incorporate that into their personal and professional life moving forward.
Wow.
And one of the students said, "This is the first class that I've had in my college experience where I actually learned more than one other student's name in the class."
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's just really sad.
Yeah.
That's the temperature. Oh my.
Yeah, I mean, I have chills. I was like, it was so shocking to me where I was like, well, no wonder folks are like students are having a challenging time engaging with the they don't even know who's in the room with them.
No.
Of course they're going to feel alone and isolated and like they don't know where to go when they have a question. So even an intervention of we're all going to learn each other's name and to normalize, like I say this over and over and over again, if you don't know someone's name,
Mm-hmm.
just ask.
Yeah.
It gets to be that simple. There's no shame or guilt for not remembering someone's name, even if you have to ask every week. There's uh, a important quality of being in community, of having the respect of just pausing and being like, hey, I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I want to address you as you want to be addressed.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but that's such a profound embodied way of relating
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
rather than being like, oh yeah, I liked that point that the person in brown made.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're saying right here, right now, what I hear is that I also get to, as me being part of the group, as a peer, get to say how I want to be called and how I want to be named and known in the group. Because I've noticed that has shifted for me as a teacher over the years a lot. That and I hear a lot of colleagues and some even family members like, I don't get the they, and then I start to explain and they still don't get it because they don't want to understand, and to be acknowledged and to give them the space to really listen into how somebody wants to be called is so meaningful and like righteous, and also acknowledging everything you bring with your name. And it reminds me of a beautiful, it comes from the book The Soul of Learning. um, Watson and Mary Keita, uh, two beautiful writers and educators from the heart. And they have a poem which is about somebody's name. And then, what does your name mean? And then you unpack, like maybe it comes from your family and a culture, and there's lineage. There's so much, like remembering from the practice we started with, like that you can lean into through your name, which is behind you. So to me, that just comes alive when you say that, to bring just a simple thing, their name into the room, and they're allowed to, yeah, bring it forth as they want it. Because often I've noticed what's on the paper is not what they often use and what they'd like to be called or named at for.
Yeah. Oh, Liz, I so love and you're speaking to my heart in such a meaningful way. Um, so my name, for example,
Oh, yes.
yeah, Cacky,
Please.
a little bit unique. And it's not my legal name, but it is my given name. Like since I was born, I've
Yeah.
always been called Cacky. And my mother named me after the two strongest women that she knew, my great grandmother and my great aunt. And my great aunt, when my dad was a little boy, he couldn't say Aunt Catherine. He said Aunt Cacky. And
Hmm.
so I was named after her. And over the years, like I have always loved my name. Never let anyone convince me that that I should be going by anything else. Um, but it really uh deepened for me when I was in my doctoral program and I was doing a lot of work around ancestral healing and
Mm.
intergenerational healing, and it it clicked in. Every time my name is spoken, it's evoking that ancestral lineage. And so it feels like such an honor and a privilege and a way of, connecting in with a community and connecting in with all of these incredible women that I follow in their footsteps just by saying my name. And that's just my example. Now imagine it being in a classroom community and I work with a lot of transgender students and non-binary students, and uh, it's so exciting to get to
Mm.
call them by their name
Yeah.
and to affirm that for them and with them and celebrate it. And for other students that like there's just so much in a name.
There is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing also your personal story. That is so touching. And it also, I was like drawn in, like, oh, yes, it makes also me remember your name better. I think that's also how it works, right? Because it comes with this whole story. And if we're allowed to share that with each other before we dive into, of course, knowledge of the classroom is also important, but it's about the belonging first.
Yes.
And that comes from these elements, and especially empaths, but to everyone, because we all have our nervous system, right? I mean, it speaks to everyone's heart. Yeah.
Oh, Liz, you're inspiring me.
Well,
I
you're the same with me. It's I didn't prepare much and just oh, I love
in
it.
the pre-internship course that I teach for my undergrad students, at the beginning of almost every class, we do a check-in.
Yeah.
Um, one, so that they can practice checking in with themselves. Two, so they can practice their full being, listening for what is going on in the group share and themes that they're hearing. And three, so that they have a collection of uh, prompts before they go into internship and potentially facilitate groups. Um, and I think in Monday's class, I'm going to have to ask them, what's the story behind your name?
Yeah, right. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Oh, get back to me. I'd love to hear.
I'll let you know. Yes, I'll let you know.
And those, to be very specific, those three like levels that you ask questions, can you name one or two questions? What are you asking them? Because that just makes it like tangible for everybody to try.
Yeah. So, one that we did recently is what is your internal weather report? So
Mm,
checking in inside with
yeah,
your felt sense, the sensations, the emotions,
yeah.
thoughts, and then describing it as the weather or a landscape. And, is it a hurricane? Is it a drought? Is it like a foggy, crisp fall morning
Yeah.
at the beach? Like really inviting them to get poetic and to lean into the metaphor. Um, and yeah, that was
Was it
one.
working?
Oh yeah, the students were really
That's
uh
cool.
yeah, that's one that I use almost every semester, and it's really fascinating. Um, I had a student this semester who I've had in other classes previously where we've done that later in the semester, and the student was remarking like it's so cool to hear people's weather report now and today and notice that folks are feeling a little bit like cozy and a little bit more peaceful versus when we did this exercise, after midterms in previous semesters and everyone was feeling like there's a chance of hurricane, and being able to track that. And it was so exciting for me as an educator to hear how the student was putting that together without me having to
Exactly.
decide that they
Yeah.
organically were paying attention and noticing that and uplifting it for the group.
Yeah. Just providing that container, right? And not because that's, I think, the most challenging part of our jobs, to give just the amount of instruction,
Yeah.
little enough so they can keep it going, do or explore something, but not fill it in with too much examples. Because to be honest, I feel, I don't know how it is in your curriculum where you teach, and we're both working, I think, for my internationally, the context I work is University of Applied Sciences. So like I think that's quite where we're at the same level there in like from 18, sometimes they're 16, 17, but average 18 to 24 years old average.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they can explore for themselves how it is for them, and just start that tracking, to get back to the topic we spoke before, like which nuances, and they can hear it from each other instead of us providing a scale, because it's so often that I notice that we're giving more and more and more assignments with exemplars. We need to put an exemplar, and then it just becomes a like a fill-in assignment, in, jumping through the hoop, but we're recreating that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's a good
Yeah.
counterbalance.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, from an embodied educator perspective,
Yeah.
uh, another thing that I play with these check-ins
Yeah.
is I will tell the students, okay, like you've shared, you've noticed these themes,
Yeah.
and you're noticing that you're naming that there's a lot of anxiety in the room, or there's not a lot of energy. People are feeling really depleted. As the facilitator, I'm going to recognize that and tell you that I'm adapting where we're going with the rest of class to meet the energy of the group. So maybe I had planned doing a really high energy, engaging activity, and everyone's feeling really depleted. So I'm going to modify that. I'll talk this through with them in real time, where I'll say, it takes a lot of prep work. I have 5 different lesson plans where we're going to be able to engage with the content in different ways depending on where the group is at.
Wow.
And then I'll model it for them. Like, I'm hearing that this is the group's need right now. So this is how I propose we work with that. And then that's also telling the students, oh, like my experience really does matter.
Mm-hmm.
This classroom is adaptable and responsive to my needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it shows them that they can do that before going into internship, that they can also practice meeting the need of the person or the group in front of them rather than holding too rigidly to, well, I have to do XYZ.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you go towards internship, I'm a
Yeah.
coordinator of internships, I've been for years, and you often only at the end hear, or midway through, like, oh yeah, I need to speak up, because they don't learn to speak up or set their boundaries, because they don't even notice what's happening. And like
Right.
what you're sharing, you're creating this capacity of tracking and noticing, to make them aware of the process of what they can do themselves from an empowering place, because they're
Yeah.
met by you. And I mean, I guess it depends a little bit on the branch where they end up working, if that is continued and welcomed there. That's another discussion, probably, but
Yeah.
especially in the media world, it's not always that present. Communication field, yes. So that's what I noticed. But anyway, you're it's so beautiful and explanatory how to create and help them grow their awareness.
yeah, they're life skills. So much of
Yes.
these embodied practices, cultivating interoception and proprioception and tuning into the felt sense and tracking, like, yes, these all serve the purpose of learning in the classroom, but my hope is that these become practices that folks take with them
Yeah.
for their life. And
Mm.
particularly, you know, I teach the psychology pre-internship. So all of the students are, whether it's art therapy, expressive art therapy, counseling, holistic psychology, like that realm.
Hmm.
Um, Burnout in the field of psychology is so huge,
Yeah.
such a problem.
Yeah.
And we spend a lot of time in my program talking about self-care and community care, and probably to the point where students are like, this is obnoxious. Let's stop. Like, we get it. Stop talking about it. Um, and I see learning these skills as a preventative tool
Yeah.
for that they're really noticing and paying attention. Like, I am really depleted today.
Yeah.
And I don't have to put on that persona and show up to this class in a particular way with a fake smile and push past my very real energy boundary right now.
Yeah. The powering through.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's I think it's even because it's not yet part of the culture that we share, I believe. Um, it's even like an activation, like that's not the word, but it's so empowering and also standing up and rising up, against this focusing, production, efficiency, 9 to 5, to really work with that in a more, well, cyclical, more alive way, and give them bits and pieces to allow that in, and to verify that for them, and to validate that that's another way to learn and to live, like you say, because it's not just, it's life skills, it's as much in relationship as it is in work, because I mean study and work, and but in the end it's our lives that we live. Yeah. And that
yeah.
work is just a part.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that also reminds me, this summer I was experimenting a little bit with ungrading.
What is that?
Um, I don't remember the author's name off the top of my head, but I can send it to you so you can put it in the show notes after.
Yeah, sure.
But I was part of a working group with other faculty in the spring where we are exploring ungrading. And it's essentially, rather than focusing on particular grades for assignments or particular final grade, which oftentimes uh, can get in the way of
Mhm.
this more applied
Yeah.
learning
Yeah.
of I'm focused on jumping through particular hoops rather than actually seeing, like, how does this material land in my body and in my life, which to me is much more important.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different approaches to ungrading. And if you can actually remove grades from curriculum, um, that would be one example. But I work in institutions where a grade is required. Um, so I I taught yoga for mental and emotional health over the summer. And it was the first time getting to teach the course. And I redesigned some of the assignments so that one of the assignments, 15% of their grade, and it was a self assessment. So we had the course objectives, there was 7 or 8 course objectives that the university had approved that were in the syllabus. And I spent time, multiple class periods with them of, okay, you are going to do this self-assessment, but rather than me create the rubric, I want to know how you will understand if you've met these course objectives. And we collaborated and created a rubric.
Mm-hmm.
They decided they wanted a 1 to 5 scale for each of the course objectives, and based on their level of reverence and understanding, not mastery, for each of the concepts. And then, in addition to the 1 to 5 scale, they also wrote a couple of paragraphs explaining why did they give themselves a 4 out of 5 for this objective, and tying in assigned material throughout the semester to support, well, I understand the cultural context of yoga as relates to the excerpt from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras that we read, or as it relates to the yamas and the niyamas, and this is how it applies to my life, and this is where I feel like I need more understanding, or I have newfound curiosity. And whatever they graded themselves, that was 15% of their grade. But I was challenging them. I was like, you need to compassionately reflect and do a real self-assessment. Why do you think this? And it was so cool, one, to create the rubric with them, because they had so much more compassion for for other times, and
Probably for teachers.
because they're like, this is really hard. And I was like, yeah, it is.
Welcome.
And then also it was so cool, the class after they had submitted their self-assessment, where
Yeah.
they were reflecting, I didn't realize how much I had learned in this course until I did the self-assessment.
Oh, wow. So the self-assessment helped them
It
to
helped to
see
integrate.
what they
Yeah,
learned.
yes.
Mm. And how, because self-assessments tend to get some resistance, is my experience in a lot of classrooms. How is that? Because maybe is this also in the psychology department? Is this the, yeah? So they probably love it a little bit more. I mean, I would geek out. But it sounds really, really interesting. Even like you're saying, I will start my lesson with asking what their name means. I'm thinking, because I need to prep my students for assessments, like they're going to do assessments, and then I'm helping them to understand the end qualities of our program, like what are we training them for, and you need to prove it.
Right.
I think I'll start with, how do you think you score on those? If you would rate yourself on this, okay, and to start from there, because now I've sent them out to collect proof, but that's hard. So maybe just to start from this point of view, like, how would you rate yourself? Because I think that's so empowering and a good validation to start off your search. So thank
Yeah.
you for returning this.
Yeah, and it was really interesting too, because of course there's students in the class who are perfectionists and might be a little bit overly critical of their own learning, and trying to support them in having a bit more compassion, and rather than focusing on comparing their growth throughout the semester to other students,
Yeah.
really getting to recognize for themselves, like, where were they when they started the class and where are they now? So
Yeah.
it's not a matter of like this other person came in with a greater understanding to begin with and they're quote unquote miles ahead. It's, where did you come into this class? with an
Yeah.
understanding, and we are unique. How can you reflect and demonstrate your own growth throughout this process? So
Yeah.
it's not just about that end goal of hopefully, like, our desire, our intention is to get everyone to meeting those course objectives or program objectives in the long run. This course is one step towards that. So how can you
Yeah.
demonstrate that you are really learning? Because if you come in
Yeah.
with an A understanding and you leave with an A understanding, did you really grow versus the person who came in with very little understanding and now has maybe a B level understanding? Like, that's big growth, and that needs to be celebrated, and that context is so important.
And I love the word you just mentioned. It needs to be celebrated, because
Yes.
that, I believe, and I'm not sure, I'm thinking you'll agree, we do too little. And especially when it is about grades, it becomes this, oh, that's worthy and this is not.
Right.
To just celebrate the fact that they are there, that they show up, that they've been there, even though it sucked or it was not with the outcome they loved, that we still get to celebrate. And it's a ritual we've been just taking out of our curriculum. And it's so good for the soul. It's so lovely, especially for the perfectionist you just mentioned. Like, I'm another one present in the room, and I'm not surprised. We need celebrations, the little ones, to make it worthwhile, because I can beat myself up hard.
Absolutely. And there's so little ritual in our world today.
Yeah.
And this opportunity to be in the classroom community and celebrate growth can be its own ritual practice.
Yeah. How do you celebrate? Do you have like something that you do with them, like a way of
Uh,
ending or?
well, one of the examples that comes to mind is I assist with somatic experiencing trainings. And as a part of that, I am in breakout groups with somatic experiencing students that are practicing the skills of the day and learning with each other. And afterwards, we have like a little debrief. And rather than pointing out like, oh, I would have done this differently, or like you totally missed the point. One of my mentors, Allison Hellquest, encourages a shaping model. So in a shaping model, you're uplifting what they did well, what you want to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than a punitive model of here's everything you did wrong. And it's it can be profoundly healing, particularly for folks who've had educational trauma where that punitive approach has been consistent or impactful for them. But this opportunity to uplift what are they doing well. And I will always frame debriefs as we're going to have a celebration of all of the good SE that you just did, what you learned about SE, and any curiosities that you have about that session. So rather than, yeah, so there's still an opportunity for like, oh, like what this choice point, why did you choose to go in this direction? Or I'm curious about if I could have done XYZ, like played with it a little bit more. So there's still opportunity for that, but it's not critical, and it's not shutting someone down or making their learning out loud wrong.
Yeah. 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 This is so important. Yeah. Yeah. That is an interesting model. And I think that's a whole nother topic that we could dive into, the shaping model, because that just hits me right at it. But I feel like we're moving, I'm looking at the time, and I notice my body is starting to shift more and dance a little, and it's getting darker. Towards the end, and I don't want to abruptly end, but thank you so much for bringing that angle in, because it is so important. And to be honest, I was member, and sometimes I still am, because of the culture we're in, of that punitive model, where we, at the end, where they're actually jumping towards where they have their final thesis, and then we still pick on them, and it's like, so this is such a gift. And I think for everyone who grades, at least to do that reframing, I'm curious about, and to leave them with an uplifting ending, to celebrate that ending, that marvelous point in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. And what a privilege to get to do that with them.
Yes, it is. It's also so much more fun and alive and healthy, because what you just said, it's actually, I find it sometimes draining, especially when I'm with a colleague, and then you get in this vibe sometimes of, okay, but this was wrong. No, flip. It's like, but it,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Dear Cacky, I love saying your name now. Mine officially also in my passport, when they would call me on the airport, they would call for Louisa Elizabeth. So my grandmother's too. And Liz was on the card of being born. And everybody calls me Liz. But I'm noticing I end my emails now with Louisa Elizabeth, because I love to honor my grandmothers more, and they come like with owls and different visualizations in my somatic journey. So that's now alive because you brought that in.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Can I call you Louisa Elizabeth?
You can. I love that.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that with me, Louisa Elizabeth, and for this beautiful conversation today. It has been so rich and so nourishing. And
Yes.
every time we connect, I feel like we could talk just for hours.
I know, and we kind of did. So probably the listeners are already like, girl, outside. I'll make it a two-part for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe a break, and we didn't even, well, maybe let's end, with a little sigh and stretch, just whatever feels like, my spine is cracking. Yeah, to leave our time and space with a little bit more aliveness. Our soul, oh man, I'm vibrating from the inside too, from our beautiful journey and concept we touched on embodied education. Yeah.
Thank you for this time to play together.
Yes, it was. It was lovely. Mwah. To you and to everyone who was with us, thank you so much. And follow the show notes for all details if you want to get more of this wonderful, wonderful embodied educator with so much gifts. And thanks again, Cacky. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us in this two-part conversation with Cacky Mellor. And her insights remind us that learning, like living, is somatic, it's cyclical, but above all, it's relational. So if today's episode moved something inside of you, we would be honored to hear or to learn from you. Any form of feedback for us means the world, and we would love to listen. Also, if you know a colleague or a friend who could benefit from our conversation, please feel free to share with anyone through any channel. And if you enjoyed this episode, a review or a ranking like 5 stars in your favorite podcast app would mean the world to us to share this embodied news around the globe. So furthermore, as always, thank you for being part of the Embodied Educator community, and I hope you take this into your classroom, transforming education and ourselves from the inside out. See you next time.